things our way, getting things done the way we want to get them done, and being the problem solver in our own lives. That when problems arise that are beyond our capacity, we forget that they are not beyond God's control. And we forfeit God's peace in our problems because we don't both pray and make petitions that he's made available for us to come before him, make prayer requests and prayer petitions. But I like this text because if anyone should understand what anxiety looks like, if anybody should understand what anxiety feels like, one would think that it would be Paul. Because when Paul writes to the church that he loves, he writes to them because he understands that they are in a panic mode because of the cultural crisis that they are facing. Now, check this out. When he writes to the church, he's not sitting in some 5-star hotel or a bed and breakfast. Anybody read this Bible I read? Paul has not ducked off to take some cruise or go on a trip to some lavish luxury resort, but instead he is writing to them from a dark Roman prison, still chained while waiting on a trial that could end his very life. So if anybody would know what anxiety feels like, if anybody would have a reason to panic or be anxious or stressed out, it would be Paul, whose life was already in the midst of a crisis. Paul could have been like some of us, Pastor Hillis. He could have stopped right dead in his tracks when he got the news, and he could have said to them, "This is not my problem." He could have been uncouth. He could have been unkind. He could have even been unconcerned and unremoved. He could have been indifferent. He could have told them, "Figure it out the best way that you can." But instead, he demonstrates what happens when prayer is practiced and not just performance. I wish y'all felt like it. Because some of us will come to church and we want people to think that we're so spiritual. And when we get the chance to pray, we pray these empty, meaningless, hour-10-long prayers that don't go past the ceiling. I put it in my notes. They're going to get quiet right here. But Paul shows us that when we involve God in our situations through the medium of prayer, he may not take you out of your crisis, but he can keep you in your crisis by taking the crisis out of you. And I'm looking around the sanctuary trying to figure out if God has any friends in here who could testify on his behalf that somehow you made it. You don't always know how you would have made it. You don't know how you would have come as far as you've come if it had not been for the medium of prayer. You ought to look down your row and testify to somebody. Prayer is necessary. It's necessary. Yes, it is. So I'm hurrying along. So the first thing I see in the text is you need prohibition against your anxiety, right? Y'all still with me? But the next thing I see in the text is not only do you need prohibition against your anxiety, you need to put the brakes on your anxiety, but prayer should be the priority. Let the church say prayer. Let the church say priority. Notice in the text, after Paul urges them to prohibit their anxiety, he introduces the priority of prayer. It's in the text he said, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, to present your requests to God. Paul gives us 3 distinct words for communication with God, which in its essence, brothers and sisters, turn out to be the blueprint for our petitions. Anybody read this Bible I read? The first word that he gives us is prayer. Am I right?